Trepang2. Where do I even begin? This game is simply incredible.
Dear God, it's beautiful.
And I cannot effectively put into words just how remarkable this title actually is. The best I can do is merely attempt to express just how magical of an experience playing this damn near masterpiece truly is. I'd go as far as claiming that Trepang2 is pretty close to Doom Eternal levels of phenomenal. Fear is back, better than ever, and under a completely different name now. Team 17 have brought this subgenre back from the grave and did not misstep at literally any point. Just like we have and are seeing an influx in boomer shooters over the past couple of years, we are now seeing an influx of fear likes, Salico and Severed Steel to name a few. And now, we have been blessed by the gods themselves with Trepang2, a game labelled as a sequel to Trepang1 despite Trepang1 not actually existing. Please don't ask me to explain that fact, because I can't. But what's the gameplay like exactly? Well, it's a blend of what you'd expect to see in Source titles like Half-Life 2 and what you'd expect from a fear game, along with boomer shooter-esque fast-paced shoot-em-up elements. Me personally, I have a particularly favourite aspect of this game. Of course, it is to hold someone hostage in the middle of a gunfight, attach a grenade to them, throw them at the enemy, and then slow down time to watch the magic happen. As eloquently mentioned a second ago, you have a plethora of abilities at your disposal to brutally execute your enemies with absolutely no remorse, because fuck them. Unlike in Fear, your ability to slow down time does not automatically replenish. Instead, to garner more energy to allow you to slow down time, you have to eliminate more corporate scum. A much needed improvement over the Fear series, as those games were far too easy thanks to the ability to constantly slow down time. Your cloak, however, does replenish automatically and allows you to sneak past as well as grab your next victim without their knowledge of your arrival. And man, is the execution option just so satisfying. Stamina management also exists here as well, in the perfect way, with the stamina utilized for sprinting, sliding and kicking enemies being replenished again via murdering not so innocent corporate goons. But none of this would even matter in the slightest if it weren't for the incredible gunplay. No matter what weapon you pick up to mutilate nearby soon-to-be victims, those guns have immense satisfaction backing them up upon use. Hell, merely the grenade alone has this gut-wrenching and yet oddly satisfying sound effect every time it blows someone up. I will say, however, the disappointment I experienced when I saw a soldier with a samurai sword through their chest and found out that I couldn't use it after the cutscene was over is a sense of betrayal quite like no other. Although almost every single aspect of Trepang2's gameplay is excessively satisfying, anything to do with melee is absolutely the total opposite. The vast majority of melee in this game is beyond undersatisfying. Unless you were talking about sliding during slow motion to remove shield enemies' defenses, although even that's somewhat underwhelming outside of the visual aspect of it. In my truly humble opinion, the seemingly small aspect would be an irreparable transgression against the player in my eyes, as there is such an obvious and clear-cut solution. Give me that goddamn fucking samurai sword.
Give it to me! Give it to me! Give it to me! Give it to me! Just give it!
If it weren't for how good everything else is, and if it weren't for how fantastic the game's gore and world detail is, despite the fact the gore is admittedly quite minimalist for a modern FPS title. And not only is Trepang2 one of the best FPS titles ever made, it's one of the best horror games ever made.
Reinitializing facility. Shooter site at a checkpoint Maxwell. We use some reinforcements over here.
Yes, you in fact did hear me correct. Trepang2 is by all accounts a horror game. I know, I didn't expect it either, but those motherfuckers at Trepang Studios were cooking, my friends. Because goddamn, this game is exactly what Doom 3 should have been gameplay-wise. Although I personally view Doom 3 as one of the best horror games ever made, it is also objectively the worst mainline Doom game at actually being a Doom title, throwing away the stylization of Doom as a franchise in place of slow and steady, basic bitch first-person horror gameplay. Trepang's legitimately perfect blend of thriller elements and fast-paced Quake-esque gameplay is exactly how id Software should have built Doom 3. To put it bluntly, this is yet another case of an indie studio proving how quite bafflingly stupid the ingrained ideologies of AAA studios actually are. The atmospheres these chads were able to foster within the missions of Trepang2 are frankly striking. When you were walking through some of these missions, the level design, ambience, and general atmosphere were perfectly together to put you into a disquietude state. By blending horror and quick movement based gameplay together, they have managed to form an astonishingly brilliant composition here. I've seen a few people claim the horror elements of Trepang2 to be subpar or painfully middle of the road, but given the gameplay style of this title, that could not be further detached from reality. Given the amped up fear-like style, the horror showcased in this game is yet again another simply incredible aspect. Sure, there are some moments where it falls a little flat, but the majority of the time they managed to build up tension well enough without resorting to cheap tricks like Fear did. The total tonal change during your second mission is handled wonderfully, and so is the build up to your first boss fight. When you fight the fucker who immediately reminded me of the Arkham Knight man-bat jump scare, there is undeniably brilliant build up to that point. The boss fight itself admittedly doesn't really live up to it though, and I think that is where people are getting confused. The actual horror elements and the build up of tension is as close to excellence as possible, but it's the payoff which is more commonly than not in this game underwhelming, to say the very least.
We were on the verge of greatness. We were this close.
And the side missions offered alright. They're nothing special by any stretch of the imagination, but they are more than good enough, offering a well executed form of extending playtime that doesn't need to be anything more than it is here, especially when the gameplay itself is so goddamn amazing. The Protect Hacked based missions work surprisingly well given its fast paced combat, and ultimately it's a fine enough extension of the main game. Overall, when it comes to this game, the only main complaint I have is that sprinting just drains way too much stamina. Honestly, this game would benefit from no sprint at all. Just give us that sprinting speed as the base speed and you're all good. Or at the very least, give us infinite sprint. You're a super soldier, having stamina be drained by sprint just doesn't make much sense. I can of course understand sliding needs a cooldown to avoid spam, but infinite sprint simply wouldn't cause any harm. And this is most evident in that second mission when you're running away from the man-bat, when you will often have to just start walking during the chase because you ran out of sprint so quickly. But that is pretty much my only complaint out of the ones previously mentioned. The developers, conveniently named Trepang Studios, and the publisher Team 17 have done a phenomenal job with this game, and everyone should go out and buy this on Steam to support it, because we need more games like this rather than the PUBG mobile looking ass crossovers in Call of Duty with the boys. And with all that being said, we have finally come to the end of my review for Trepang2, a truly phenomenal game. So with all that being said, please do not forget to do all the things YouTubers adore to beg you to do, aka check out my thread, yes I am on there now, my Twitter, my Discord, as well as like, comment and subscribe with bells turned on, so that will see you all in the next video.